Welcome to Chapter 7 of the Washington State Beekeepers Association Apprentice course, where we will take a look at services and products. In this chapter, we'll look at the services and the products that come from the honeybees. We'll look at pollination, we'll look at honey and other products. First, let's take a look at pollination. Pollination is a process of transferring pollen from the anther to the stigma of the plant, causing fertilization resulting in the seed or fruit. It can happen through the wind blowing pollen or through transporting pollen manually via insects, birds, and bats. Over 80% of the world's flowering plants require a pollinator to reproduce. Crops non-reliant on animal pollination are wheat, corn, rice, and most grasses. Plants and pollinators have evolved together to make them able to successfully interact, each one benefiting from the interaction. The pollen gains food in the form of nectar and or pollen from the flower, and in return the flowers are able to develop and produce seeds by reproducing. Common wisdom says that 1/3 of our diet is linked to honeybee pollination. This statement is based on a 2007 study that has found 35% of the world's food crop depends on animal pollinations of one kind or another to provide pollination and seed production. Honeybees are the most commercialized providers of pollination service, with beekeepers being paid to transport hives from field to field following the blooms from a variety of agricultural crops. Many crops include almonds, apples, watermelon, cherries, and cucumbers currently rely on commercially raised honeybees colonies for pollination. Globally, pollination of agricultural crops is valued at $3 trillion. In the United States alone, pollination of agricultural crops is estimated at $10 billion annually. The U.S. Department of Agriculture releases a report annually on the cost of pollination services based on region. Almond pollination contributes over 1/3 of the U.S. beekeepers' revenue, making it extremely important to the stability of the commercial beekeepers' overall operations. Many other farm crops are either dependent on insects for pollination to produce the crops or yield more abundantly and or improve in quality when pollinated. These crops include most fruits and berries, some of the nuts, many legumes, clover, alfalfa, vetch or trefoil, melons, cucumbers, and other vegetables. Renting out hives for pollination is a specialized facet of beekeeping and another way to generate income. The same colonies may be rented for multiple crops during the year, requiring the ability to transport the hives. Most people are not aware of the cost involved with moving bees. In addition to the labor and the cost of operating a truck, there's a loss of honey, as much as one shallow super per colony. Also, there are also hazards which include loss of queens, about 5%, and occasional colony loss to suffocation in transit, possible exposure to pesticides and vandalism, and the danger and increased incidence of disease, robbing, and drifting. Other risks are theft, flooding, and liability suits for bee stings. In fact, non-commercial beekeepers should charge a premium compared to commercial ones in that their hives have more man hours invested in them and are placed at a higher cost per hive than those who are moved as a palletized hive. In this next section, we'll look at honey and other products that come from bees. Honey is a product that everyone thinks of when talking about honeybees. For people who have never kept bees, the assumption is that every hive produces lots of honey for the beekeeper. For those of us who have kept bees, and depending on the number of hives we maintain in our apiaries, we know that there have been years with no surplus honey to harvest. That being said, even backyard beekeepers with 1 to 2 hives have harvested honey to enjoy for themselves. Most new beekeepers do not worry about marketing their honey. Instead, they feel lucky if their colonies make enough surplus for their own use. They usually have 1 or 2 hives, which in an average year yield an amount sufficient for their own use or to give for presents. Through the learning process of honeybee management, mistakes are made which reduce or eliminate the honey crop. However, there comes a year when there is honey beyond the needs of the immediate family and circle of friends. At this time, beekeepers often start thinking about making some money by selling the excess honey. This may sound like a simple next step. However, if you decide to sell honey, rules and regulation needs to be followed. See the Washington State requirements in the Revised Code of Washington, Chapter 69.28, Honey. Most honey produced by honeybees is of fine quality if it is left with the bees until sealed, since bees seal only ripe honey. Thin and unripe honey contains over 18.5% water. For this reason, honey should be extracted soon after the supers are removed from the hive to prevent absorption of additional moisture. Honey sold in the United States is liquid, in glass jars, squeeze bottles, or bears, or popular for the table and usually refillable. Honey is also sold in 1, 2, 4, or 5-gallon plastic pails for the customers wanting a large amount. Cream honey is usually sold in small plastic tubs, and there are several clear plastic containers available for cutcomb honey. Labels may be hand-lettered, designed on a computer, or bought pre-printed from a bee supply company. They may be very informal for friends, but for general sale, labels must include certain information required by law: net weight of honey in pounds and ounces, floral sources, country of origin, and name, address, and zip code of the packer or producers. Beekeepers selling honey should be well informed regarding the composition, properties, and the use of honey in order to be able to discuss their product fluently with any customers. Note: bee products should not be advertised, recommended, or promoted as having health benefits. Without a license to prescribe medicine, making health claims is illegal, raise issues of liability, and may be subject to litigation for fraud. Now we will look at other products. While honey is the main product that everyone knows that comes from bees, there are other products such as wax, propolis, pollen, venom, and bees themselves. Let's take a look at wax. Wax from cappings removed in preparation of extracted and bird combs make a high quality wax since they are white and clean. Melting the wax into a 1-ounce ingot can bring in an average of $9 a pound, and it can usually be traded to bee suppliers for new foundation. The demand for beeswax comes mainly from the cosmetic industry and can be sold directly to the cosmetic broker. The most popular product for direct sales are bombs. They are easy to make, don't require expensive material or equipment, and can be produced at home. There are many recipes available on the internet. Propolis, pollen, and venom are included in the medical arena and are regulated by the Federal Drug Administration. There is a demand for these products, and it is usually recommended that a relatively new beekeeper selling these products directly to a company by becoming a supplier. However, it is wise to contact the companies that produce health-related products and ask what are the minimum quantities of the products that they require you to produce, as this will let you know if this is something that is practical for you. Bees themselves are becoming a popular product as more new beekeepers are starting the hobby of beekeeping and need packages and nucs to get started. There is also a seemingly endless need for replacing colonies for overwinter losses. Getting started as a bee supplier requires time and resources that usually are not what a new beekeeper is planning on doing. However, as a person's experience and interest grows, it can be something that they wish to explore. Most bee suppliers are commercial beekeepers who start the season providing pollination service in the warmer states like California. There are niche suppliers who have limited number of packages and nucs that they sell. This concludes Chapter 7 of the Washington State Beekeepers Association Apprentice course. Please complete all assigned reading and videos for this chapter, as well as joining me for a 1-hour chapter review at the appointed date and time.